For users of the SP5, transitioning to the SP8 should be very straightforward. These systems are very similar. The SP8 merely runs on an updated version of the software. One thing that is different is the way the power works on the SP8 compared to the SP5. All of the power on the SP8 comes from a single power strip that is on the desk underneath the monitor. Flipping the power switch on the power strip will power on each individual component, including the PC. You'll obviously need to wait a few minutes for the PC to come to the full power up, and then you can move forward with the rest of the startup. There is a hook near the door for the microscope cover. There is a quick start guide available for the SP8. The sheet should be in a sheet protector somewhere near the PC, and this could help you get started if you have any questions, any simple questions. When the PC is started up, you'll need to log into the user account with the password user, which is marked on the monitor. The software for the SP8 is the Leica LAS-X software. The icon is the red and gray X on the desktop. When you start up the software, things will look very similar to when you start up the SP. The opening screen of the LAS-X software again has a lot of the same components of the opening screen on the SP5. However, they're laid out in a slightly different way. The configuration should always say machine. The microscope should always say DMI8. If you need the resonance scanner, you'll need to choose the resonance scanner from the on-off button. And then you can select OK. Another major change between the SP5 and the SP8 is the way the microscope is controlled. The good news is that the control of the SP8 microscope, the DMI8, is much simpler than the control on the SP5. Everything on the microscope can be controlled by this touchpad here. And so you merely need to select a button to open a shutter, change the light path, and even change the objectives. I can go to the objective tab, and I can change objectives. When you're changing from a dry objective to an oil immersion objective, you'll actually have to tap the button twice. Once to indicate that that's the objective you want to change to, and once to indicate that you know that there is an immersion change. You can also select different light path settings from the little filter wheel icon. The transmitted light options are here. The fluorescent option is here. You can select fluorescence and then choose from one of the filter cubes, and then open or close the shutter. If you select bright field, the shutter button goes to the other side, and you can again open or close the shutter. The XYZ control is identical to the SP5 using the joystick here with XY controls in the front and Z control in the back. There's fine or fast for XY and fine or coarse for Z. The look of the LAS-X software is slightly different than that of the previous generation software. However, the general operation is basically the same. There are a few key differences that you'll want to watch out for. One, the detector display is laid out horizontally instead of vertically as it is in the SP5. For each detector that you'll be using, you'll want to select to turn on the detector, and then the corresponding detector window will become colored, indicating the detector window that matches the detector you just turned on. If you go down the row of the detector, you should easily be able to see which detector window corresponds to that detector. Setting up the detector windows is very similar to as in the SP8, where if you click in the middle, you can slide, and if you click on the ends, you can expand or contract. Additionally, if you double click, you can select very specific wavelengths. The transmitted light detector is below the fluorescent detectors. You'll simply click the small triangle to expand it. You can turn the detector on or off, and you can set a gain from the bar. You can also use the smart bar to control gain and zoom and your Z position in the same way that you would have done with the SP5. Another important difference in the SP8 software is the auto select feature for the beam splitter. So the software will automatically select the beam splitter that fits best with the laser combination that you've used. If you prefer to manually select your beam splitter, you can simply deselect, decheck auto select, and select from the drop-down list. It's important to remember that similar to the SP5, the SP8 does not have a beam splitter that will work simultaneously for the UV laser and the visible lasers, except for the reflectance beam splitter. Generally speaking, auto select should work well for you. If your imaging settings are not working, you can feel free to email me and ask me questions. It often helps for me to have either a screenshot or a metadata file for your image so that I can see exactly what settings you're using and how they should be changed. Another significant change in the SP8 software is how you turn on the lasers. Previously in the SP5, you would go to the configuration tab and select the laser window to then turn on the lasers. In the SP8 software, you can use the configuration tab. However, there's a shortcut from the acquire window. If you click on this tab here, then you can see the laser overview window, which will allow you to turn on the lasers that you require for your experiment. All of the lasers on the SP8 are solid-state lasers, which means that they don't require a long startup or shutdown time. You can turn them on and begin using them immediately, and you should not see any major power fluctuations. Additionally, the laser panel in the SP8 software looks much different from in the SP5. When you need to turn on a laser here, let's say we'll be exciting FITSE fluorophore. We'll select the 488 laser, click the small button to open the laser shutter, and then select a laser power. As I stated, the lasers in the system are solid-state lasers, and they're relatively high powered compared to the gas lasers on the SP5. The laser power that you'll be using on this system will be significantly lower than what you were using on the previous system. I highly encourage you to use the laser power meter that we have available to you to measure the laser powers you would have been using on the SP5, and then try to recreate those laser powers as much as possible. Generally speaking, I recommend that people start with about 2% laser power on most of the systems in this, most of the lasers on this system, and then adjust it as needed. One final important difference between the SP8 software and the SP5 software is the inclusion of the Optimize XY format button. This button, when clicked, will optimize your pixel to achieve Nyquist sampling for resolution limited objects, which is roughly a 70 to 80 nanometer pixel size. Now, you may not require this small of a pixel size if you are not imaging resolution limited objects, but I encourage you to choose a pixel form that best samples the objects that you will be imaging. If you need help making decisions on what the best choice for that is, please let me know and we can have that discussion. When shutting down the system, as I mentioned, these are solid-state lasers and they do not require a long cool-down time. When you're ready to shut down the system and you're done with your imaging, you can merely return to the laser panel, turn the lasers off, shut down the software, and then you need to power down the PC using the standard window controls. When the PC has fully shut down, you can simply hit the power switch on the power strip, and that will shut down the entire system. Please make sure that you've cleaned any oil off of the immersion objectives and return the objectives to the 10x position on the microscope before shutting down the system. If you have any other questions about using the SP8, please contact me by email and we can set up an individual time to talk about it.